Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Sports Card Lessons Podcast with me, your host, Ken. I'm a retired teacher documenting my hobby journey here on the pod, finding teachable moments to share with all of you along the way. Don't forget to hit me up on social media on Instagram at sportscard_lessons. Hit that follow button. And you can also find me on YouTube by searching Sports Card Lessons. If you like what you hear, please like, subscribe, and most importantly, tell a friend and spread the word. What is up, everybody? How is everybody doing? Coming off a huge weekend, the Hofstra show. Just a huge weekend. We'll get into that in a few minutes. I got a great teachable moment coming. I want to thank my guy, Rob at Sports Card Therapist for the interview last week. Just a great interview. If you missed it, you got to go back and listen to it. It was just a really great interview. Oh, starting out the week, the Hofstra show, huge. It was just a huge show last weekend. It's my first time doing a 2-day show. All I've done up to this point were all 1-day shows, so this was kind of a big deal for me. Booking the hotel room and doing it solo because as I've talked about, I set up at all the shows with Rob at Sports Card Therapist, and we shared a table down there on Saturday, but he wasn't doing Sunday, so I was staying overnight solo and taking the table on Sunday solo. So Friday, getting ready for the show, got the car all packed up, first time packing up the overnight bag for a card show, and I go to the computer just to pull out my whole hotel reservation, and something catches my eye. It says for April 10th, a reservation for April 10th. And I'm thought to myself, well, that's when I booked it. That's not, the reservation was for this weekend. Then I went back and looked at it again, and it said one night on April 10th. And I'm like, I book hotel rooms all the time. I've never had a problem. I've never booked the wrong night. How could this have happened? So I go back and I look again. So then I go pull my credit card up, and sure enough, on April 10th, they charged me not only for the room, but a no-show fee. And I'm like, are you kidding me? This is Friday night at 10:30 before the show. I mean, I'm literally getting up at 5 o'clock Saturday morning, and I'm on the road. So I call the 1-800 number. I'm like, look, I'm not sure how this happened. And they're like, yeah, we can't help you out. And I said, well, is there any rooms available at the hotel? And they said, I don't know. You have to call the hotel. So I hang up with them. I call the hotel. Obviously, it's a Friday night at 10:30. How much help did I expect to get? But he said, hey, look, there's nothing we can do. You made a reservation. You missed it. And I said, well, do you have any rooms available now? And he said, yeah, we do. They're $400 a night. I'm all set. Thank you. So, of course, get online, go do whatever it is, Expedia or whatever, go look. And, I found another room reasonably priced. I booked the room, but then I went back to it was interesting because I went back to the hotel, to the website that I was booking this from, that it was the show website that said, hey, click here for these hotels. And when I clicked, I went back to see, like, was this my fault? Was it something? Because, I understand things happen. I clicked on it and I followed it. But even after you put the date in on this particular website and you went to the next one, the next screen, it reverted back to the day you were on. So I'm only taking 50% of the blame just because I didn't pay attention to it when I finalized the deal. But yeah, I'm out of room, that night. Obviously, I called my credit card company, see if they can do anything. They're working on it, but who knows? But it wasn't a great way to start, this big weekend, just all this, lots of anxiety late on Friday night. So I got a room, I'm booked up, or off to the show on Saturday. And it's quite a long drive down there. It's not something, for me, it was, it's an hour and a half morning with no traffic, but and that time in the afternoon after 5 o'clock, it's like a 3 hour drive home with all the traffic coming out of Long Island, coming out of New York or through New York. So it wasn't something I wanted to do. I definitely wanted to stay overnight. So the show Saturday was just really busy from the word go. It starts at 10 and ran from 10 to 5. And interesting enough, at the show, there's a garage door. It's like a loading ramp that comes down. You could literally drive into drive a car or a truck or anything down there. Obviously you couldn't, but it was really nice to be able to set up. You parked at the back, you put your stuff on, you load down, went down this ramp. But come at 10 o'clock, they close that huge door, and that door doesn't open again until 5. So, if you've set up at shows, sometimes that, late in the day, and, sometimes you just say, I'm going to cut out early. I'm not making many sales. I've got something else going, anything. That's this show. I mean, if you really, really needed to, if there's emergency, you could get out of there. But for the most part, it was so crowded from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Like, I've never seen a show like this, that it stayed fully crowded and people were still buying things at 5 o'clock when they're making an announcement that the show is over. Now, they had a lot of people signing autographs, which drew a big crowd, and they staggered that out through the day. And I think they saved the bigger autographs for late in the day. So that's why late in the day, between 3 and 5 o'clock, it was still very, very busy there. So yeah, it was just another huge day at Hofstra. I was there for the first time. I went back there. I went there for the first time October as a spectator, and I was overwhelmed with the crowds there. So I knew it was going to be a big show. Setting up, I had some really good guys on my left and right. Obviously, my first day I was there with Rob, but we had, show buddies left and right of us. On one side, we had John from Behind the Diamond. On the other side, we had Eddie from D'Angelo Sports. Shout out to both you guys. On Sunday, you were a big help to me when I was running solo. If I had to run, get a drink, go to the bathroom, or anything, you guys were right there. It's funny. I said to Eddie from D'Angelo Sports, I said, Eddie, I got to go run to the bathroom. I'll be back in a few minutes. And I came back, and jokingly I said, hey, did I have any sales? And Eddie pulls a wad of cash out. He's like, all right, I sold 2 of those. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So yeah, it was one of those days that you just never knew when somebody was going to show up to your table and buy something, because it was just crowded all day. And, at some point you have to run. You got to go. When you got to go, you got to go. But it was definitely busy. Interesting. And I'm going to say this, I'm going to give a shout out to Matt from Florida, that I met Saturday and Sunday. And we made a deal. He bought a few things from me, and I gave him a good deal. And I said, I'll give you this deal as long as you follow me on social media, on Instagram, because I want to shout you out. And obviously Matt left and never did. So Matt, if you're listening, hit me up, give me your Instagram, and I'll definitely shout you out, because Matt was a hustler. He was up from Florida, had a briefcase, and I like people. I like people who hustle. I like people who grind. I come from that kind of a background. I was that kind of kid when I was young. I was, hustling in the neighborhood at 13, 14 years old, trimming bushes, mowing lawns. As soon as I could get a job, I was off doing that. I was always paper routes. I mean, literally, I had usually 2, 3, 4 hustles going at a time. So I really, really like to see people who hustle and grind, who really, really put their all into it and kind of figure it out as they go, but really start to figure out how to do it and how to hustle. And Matt was definitely a hustler. Showed up. He had a carry-on luggage bag with him. We met him on Saturday. He came late in the day on Saturday. He just flew up from Florida. He was trying to make some deals, but he was just trying to pay on Zelle and Apple Pay, and with me, it didn't work out with me because I didn't take Zelle. He made a deal with Rob for something, because Rob did. And I saw him hustling with everybody else, and he liked a few of my cards. He tried to work out a deal, and the deal just didn't work out on Saturday. So Sunday he came back, and he did it right. He came back. He had an envelope full of cash, and he said, "I got cash today. I'm ready to make a deal." And I watched him. Not only did I give him a good deal, but I watched him go from table to table and just make really good deals. He had the gift of gab, and he was hustling. He was grinding. He was making deals. He was honest. He's not saying, "Hey, I think this." He says, "I know this is worth this much. I can see what the comps are, but this is what I want to pay, and this is what I want to do." And it worked out for me because they were cards that I didn't have a lot into, so I was still able to make a little and able to pass him off a profit too. So just a shout out to Matt. A couple things I learned about my case again. Saturday, Rob and I had 3 cases. We both had 1.5 cases on an 8-foot table, and I had one card on my case there was a Josh Allen, and I talked about this, I think episode 4 maybe, where I picked up this Josh Allen card. It was autographed, and it's authenticated by Beckett, and it was the hottest card in my case, and it stopped everybody, and that's what everybody stopped to talk about and tried to make a deal and work back and forth on that. You know what? I have cards in my case that are stale. I'm just going to call them stale. They're nice cards. They've been there for a few months. They're graded. They're 9s, 9.5s, a bunch of 10s. But they're just players that people aren't looking for. And even though the comps and the values, they're priced correctly in my case, if it's a card that's stale that people aren't looking for, that they're just not out to buy it. Now, a couple of times people said, "Hey, how much for this card?" Or "What's the best you can do on this card?" And by the end, I was saying, "Make me an offer. Like, what do you think the card is worth to you?" Because at this point, these were cards that I either picked up in a break or I pulled out of I pack pulled and I sent off to SGC for grading. So really, what am I into the card for? Make me offers. And kind of on Saturday, when none of those cards were selling, when Sunday, when Rob was gone, I was able to spread some more of those cards out. I just told people, "Hey, anything in this case over here, if you like it, make me a deal, make me a reasonable offer, I'll take it." Just because I want to try to start moving some of these stale cards to level up to bigger cards, something I could put out there. A lot of people came to me for this Josh Allen card that they wanted to trade up. They wanted to give me 4, 5, 6 cards and trade up, and that's not what I was looking to do, because I just felt like if I took any of their 4, 5, 6 cards, I'm going to end up with 2 or 3 stale ones, 2 or 3 cards that are just going to sit in my case. They probably sat in their case, right, or sat in their PC for a while, and they're having trouble moving them. So they're saying, "Oh, hey, this card is worth so okay, I'll give you 20% over comps," but they're giving me cards that are just stale, that I just don't want to take more stale cards and put in my case. I don't do anything on eBay. And I know people will say, "Geez, take those cards. I'll take those cards all day and I'll put them on eBay." I stay away from that stuff. I've done eBay before, and I know, it's a hustle. It's a hustle for people. And I have too many hustles going on that I don't need that hustle. I'll just put it at that. I have to pick and choose my time, how valuable my time is. And the eBay route, selling on eBay, I don't find that to be valuable for me. So as far as that Josh Allen card, I really made up my mind to say, I want to trade up. I will give you that card plus cash to upgrade to a bigger card. And that's kind of where I stood on that card and told people when they came, "Do you have anything bigger? Do you have a bigger card, something I can trade up into?" And that just never happened this weekend. So I still have that card, but I'm still excited about that card. I like that card. So what else? I could have made a deal with that card. And I just want to throw this out there. And I've talked to a few people about this, and people are mixed about this. And a lot of young kids come up at this Hofstra show with a lot of money, with more money than I think a 12 or 13-year-old kid should be running around with. and more cards than I think a 12 and 13-year-old kid should be running around with. Um, we got kids come up to the table and they're dropping a Patrick Mahomes auto on the table. They're like, I'm selling this $20,000. And I'm looking at the kid. I'm like, how old are you? That's unbelievable. Where did you come up with this card? Do your parents know you're running around with this card? But I guess in that area it happens more often. I just haven't seen it at the other shows. This show I had it was 12-year-old kid. He came up. He had a couple cards. Justin Herbert, rookie card. He had Joe Burrow autographed card, and he had about $2,500 in cash. And he wanted to come up and he wanted to buy that Allen card, that Allen auto, and he wanted to trade me the Burrow. I mean, I'm sorry, not the Burrow, the Herbert, and give me like $1,200 in cash. And the deal was good. The deal was good for both of us. But I talked him out of it a little bit, because even after we made the deal, I said, okay, well, let's just talk about this again. And his friend was with him. And I put the cards out and I put the cash down. I said, this is what we're going to do. Because in my mind, I'm thinking there's got to be a parent close by. And I want to make sure everybody understood the deal, because I didn't want a parent coming back saying, you took advantage of my son, if for some reason the parent wasn't happy with the card that I sold to him. So I really laid this deal. I laid this deal out on the table a couple times, and I said, are you really sure? I said, you haven't even checked comps. You've just gone by what price I put on that card. So at the end of the day, we didn't do the deal, and I could have done the deal. It would have been a great deal for me, but there was something about making a deal with such a young kid with a lot of cash that I was just nervous to do. I just didn't want to. I didn't want to, even though I wasn't taking advantage of him, and I knew it was a fair deal all around. It was just something my gut was just telling me, don't make this deal with the kid, and I didn't. And I stand by that, and I still have the card I have, and it's still worth what it is. And other deals will come by, but other people said, oh my God, you should have made that deal all day. These kids come to your table. If they want to do it, just make that deal. This was kind of my first time dealing one-on-one with such a young kid with a lot. And I think that's a lot of money for a young kid, and the cards as well. So I didn't make the deal. You could send your comments to me, message me on Instagram what you think, if you would have made the deal, if you wouldn't make the deal. I don't know. It's just me, and maybe I'm a little bit old school, but I didn't make the deal. So look, a couple of shout outs. Shout out to my guy Harvey I'm going to say, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I think it's Moki Hobby Cards, Mocci Hobby Cards. I met Harvey back in New Jersey, I think in October or December. Came to my table with cards, and we never made a deal, but we just became friends, and we communicate almost weekly on Instagram. And he shows up at all the shows. I see him at every show. Showed up at Hofstra, says he really loved the pod. He's listened to all of them. So just giving him a shout out. Appreciate you. I appreciate you listening, and always look forward to talking to you and seeing you at all the shows. Another shout out to Alan at ja.sports.cards. It's just a local card shop that opened up down the street from me, 10 minutes away. And it's really given me a new place to go 2 or 3 times a week. And, you would think that anybody shows up that much, you'd be like, oh, not this guy again. But Alan and I over there, we're almost the same age, and just have great conversation, talking sports, talking life. And I just want to, Alan, I appreciate you. And I appreciate having that place to stop and not only chat with you, but I have all these great cards in the cases to look at. So, and making deals with you all the time. Another shout out to Tommy at Tommy_Mattioli19. Tommy, I meant to shout you out a couple weeks ago. Saw you at Springfield. you were set up behind us. You talked about the pod, that you liked it, and you hit me up and said you're enjoying it. And I wanted to hit you up last week. Never got it in, so definitely want to give you a shout out. This week's teachable moment. So this just happened this week, and I'm saying this because the way I viewed this situation, I think I'm right, but I could be wrong. We always think we're right. So Monday, I'm not going to say who it was. Somebody on Instagram put up a story sale selling all these cards. And it said at the end, if you have any cards to trade, send photos and prices / current comps. I said, okay. So I looked through his, and he had a really nice Tom Brady, $1,400, and a really nice Erling Haaland. I think it was $750, because it was right around 2,100, 2,150. So those stale cards I kind of talked about that I had, I took some pictures of them. I went and looked up current comps, and I went below comps. Like literally the prices I pulled out at about 70% comps, maybe 75% comps. And I sent them to him, and I said, look, I'm interested in the Brady and the Haaland, and I have these cards. Let me know if you're interested in any. I could do cards and cash, or cash. And I know almost immediately he looked at my message, and he looked at the cards and left me unread and never responded. And here it is 3 days later. He still never responded. I did what he asked. And I also told him that at the end, which I don't think he ever even read to the end of what I had to say. And I think what happened was he looked at the cards that I put up there, and you know what? They're all cards that are about $200, anywhere from, they're probably comp wise, they're probably about 250, 275, but I put them up there for between $100 and $200 each one. There was 8 of the cards I put up there. They're stale cards for me, but they're kind of cool cards. They're, some of them, there were a couple of super short prints. There were 2 National Treasure RPAs, right? So the way I put it out to him is, if you're interested in any of these, whatever you'd give me for them, I would take it. But I want to buy these 2 cards, and whatever you could take off, and I'll send you the rest. Literally never responded. And it reminded me this week, years ago, I worked fresh out of college, I worked at a retail computer store. And back then, computers in the late 80s were about $5,000 a computer. And most people that came into the store came in to browse around, were never going to buy anything, just wanted to know what was new with computers. And the other half would come in because they actually got to sit at a computer, because we had demo systems set up. They could come in and sit at a computer and play with a computer in the computer store. And I was a young guy, and there was much older guys there. And when cars would pull into the parking lot, we'd all be standing around, and then people would gather. Immediately, these guys would start trying to predict. They're going to buy something. They're not going to buy something. This guy can't afford anything. The one thing I learned from that was you can never predict by the way people look if they've got $1 in their pocket or 10 million in their bank account. And if you don't know somebody, and the old expression is, don't judge a book by its cover. And it's absolutely true, because I find this at shows all the time. People walk up to my table, and I'm thinking they're never going to buy anything, and then they buy 6 cards. I'll take this one, this one, this one, and that one. And I get other people come up, and they're all like, oh, I love this card, this, that. And I'm like, for sure, this guy's going to buy something. Then they just turn and walk away. They don't buy anything. And I think what happened in this situation, which I'm calling a teachable moment, is this particular person saw these cards that, I said I liked these two cards that were worth $2,100, and he saw that I had 7 or 8 cards that weren't worth 200, each, and just felt that I was a waste of time to talk to get back to. And it, it, not true at all. Not true at all. Just coming back from this show, I had plenty of money in the Venmo. Literally plenty of money. I was willing to Venmo him the money because I really like these cards. And now I'm off somewhere else looking for other cards. I don't like people that just don't get back to you, or they judged something very quickly. Now, this is my perspective. Their perspective may be, oh, I was going to get back to you and I just completely forgot. I forgot things before. I understand that. But usually when I forget things, I'll go back and see them a day or 2 or 3 days later. And I had to give him up to today to say, oh man, I'm sorry I never got back to you. I got tied up, but I'm really not interested in those cards. But if you want these cards, um, they're definitely for sale. And I'd still do the deal. But now I never heard from him. So as this podcast will be released Friday morning, I'm going to message him back and say, there was a lesson to be learned here. Listen to the podcast. So, and you know who you are. That's the teachable moment. Oh, upcoming shows. We have the Big Apple in New York City, May 8th and 9th. It's another 2-day show, but I am only going to be there Saturday. The 2-day shows knocked the heck out of me. And being in New York or Long Island, it's too expensive to stay. I mean, you're almost starting your day out if you stay overnight. In the New York show, for me to go stay overnight, I'm starting out the day negative 500 on Sunday. So I'm just going to be there on Saturday. After that, the weekend after that, the Probstein show is in New Jersey, AutoFest. Mohegan Sun is June 11th and 12th. Springfield, Mass. The New England Card Show is June 26th. And Nationals, July 28th to the 31st. And, we touched about this on this with my interview last week with Sports Card Therapist. But it's amazing that I didn't realize how quickly I've been propelled into this. And I owe a lot to him. I owe a lot to Sports Card Therapist that, he's ended up with so many connections so quickly that people I know that's been in this hobby that I meet, that's been in this hobby for years and have been on wait lists to get into things that we're getting into these things up front and quickly, much sooner than most people. And just a huge shout out to him, and a huge shout out just to the hobby that allows this to happen. That allows us to, this hobby could be whatever you want it to be. If you wanna hustle and grind in this hobby, I mean, the sky's the limit. Literally, the sky's the limit. There is no law of the land in the hobby. It's people have made it up, and I can see this, that people have made this up as the shows. They've just put these shows. They've just had a great idea and put it together. They didn't have blueprints to go by. They didn't have a list of rules and regulations that they had to follow in order to, the most rules and regulations I find is when I go to put something up on a Facebook account and the admins deny it and say, well, you didn't coin it, or you have to put a price. You can't say accepting best. I mean, this is where I find the most amount of rules in this hobby. It's just unbelievable. So there, without being any rules and regulations, the sky is the limit. And people who want to hustle, and I can see this, that people who really want to hustle will really propel themselves to the top of this hobby very quickly. All right. Well, that's it. We're going to shut it down for this week. I really have I have an announcement for next week. I'm very excited that I have Craig from New York City Sports Cards. I'm going to interview him. He's going to be on the pod next week. So definitely come back next week. Tune in for that. That's going to be a lot of fun. Almost as much fun as sports card therapy. No, I'm just kidding. Definitely, it's just going to be a lot of fun. A lot of fun. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. And if you like what you hear, please tell a friend, spread the word. And until next time, be good to yourselves and everyone around you.